the original authors, that common nature, because we're made in the image of God. We're never so different from each other. There is nothing new under the sun, even with cultures that vary. Very easily we can perceive and explain any differences. So, the vast majority of scriptures, the human author's meaning and the divinely intended meaning are inseparable. When Paul says, do everything without complaining or argument, it's hard to imagine any difference between the divine and the human author's intent, just the same. So the human authors understood that they were on a salvation historical trajectory. The climax coming with the coming of Messiah. God intervenes savingly in history repeatedly and progressively from time to time. The Old Testament writers recorded divine interventions to be understood in their own day. In Hosea 11:1, he wrote, when Israel was a child, I loved him. Out of Egypt, I called my son. So the context here refers to Israel's exodus out of Egypt as an example or a pattern is applied to the Assyrian exile in Hosea's day. But in Matthew chapter 2:15, you probably recognize that, as Joseph took the mother and child into Egypt and remained there until the death of Herod, Matthew 2:15 says, this was to fulfill what the Lord had spoken by the prophet, out of Egypt I have called my son. So Matthew cites Hosea 11:1 as a reference of the return of Jesus out of Egypt. So biblical authors were conscious of being part of a larger divine story that they expected others to build on. So the New Testament authors understood they were living in the days of fulfillment, and they believed that the scriptures were all about Christ. All about Christ. And all Israel's history pointed to Jesus with a dual authorship of Scripture, both human and divine, a concurrent authorship at the same time. So, having used Hosea as a fulfillment of Scripture, let's move on to 15. Can a text have more than one meaning? No. Okay.